We got Gators Breakdown here. We know we're business.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
Well, we're all business right now. Back from vacation, fall camp starting. You know. It's going to be nonstop football from here to December, hopefully January. Who knows? Who knows where the season to go? But it gets started right now. Fall campus has started. I was on vacation, so I'm a couple days behind, but you guys know I'm not gonna go too long without talking some Gators here. Back from vacation right here on this episode of Gators Breakdown. So plenty to get into. We will not take too long to get to it because there is a lot to get to. Fall camp starting, and of course, a lot of recruiting. I'm on vacation, so that means commits are going to happen. And boy, was it a busy Wednesday for the Gators on the recruiting trail. All the way back to the class of 2024 again somehow. We'll get into that with a JUCO defensive lineman commit who's already practicing with the Gators, a 2025 commit, and 2026. The 2025 commit was a reclassification from 2026. So all kind of recruiting storylines, but we will get started first with fall camp. So hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so yet to Gators Breakdown right here on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. I don't even know if I introduced myself in this episode, but you guys know who I am by now. If this is your first time listening to Gators Breakdown, welcome. This is a 2024 season that is so critical for Billy Napier, this coaching staff, these players, and glad to have you on board. But most of you guys, I'm pretty sure, know who I am by now if I didn't introduce myself. So there we go. But smash that like button. That really helps us out. And hey, look, we're within a month of kickoff. Get your Beat Miami shirt, gatorsbreakdownmerch.com. New designs up there as well. But link is in the description to do that, to join that. And then also, of course, Gators Breakdown Plus. Link is in the description to join that. Of course, we'll be getting back into the flow of things there. But that Discord chat, I kept up with it a little bit on vacation. Some really good conversations going on there. Fall camp starting, some more football talk. Of course, all the recruiting storylines there taking place in the recruiting channel on Discord. But some of the chats that will be coming up, we'll be shifting those to Gators Breakdown Plus members only. So if you enjoyed those the last few months, that's where they will live right there. Much more at Gators Breakdown Plus. One more time. Link is in the description. All right, so let's get started here. We will, of course, start with Billy Napier, what he had to say to kick off the media, pretty much the media day. Most of the main coaching staff talk. We heard from Billy Napier. We heard from Russ Callaway, Ron Roberts. We'll hear from Napier and Callaway this episode. I'm going to say Ron Roberts for an episode coming up. Pretty much just for time purposes. We had a lot to get to. So Billy Napier, Russ Callaway in this episode, but you also heard for some of the other support staff as well. So it was kind of a media day for Gators to kick off the 2024 season on Tuesday. But let's get started right here with Billy Napier and what he had to say about this 2024 team and mainly the culture heading into this season.
Billy, this is your third August. Would you talk about how the football culture has evolved during this time? How much of that is just experience and how much of it is just the total change in culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do think that in particular this spring, I thought we took a step forward in both areas. I do think we're in year 3 of our system and doing those things here at the University of Florida in this league against this competition. So I think, we continue to adapt and evolve. But I do think from a football perspective, we just have more experience. We have 17 starters coming back. We're 4th in the league in returning production. We've got 41,000 snaps of experience coming back. And I think the character makeup of our team is different. I think we have credible leadership. So culturally, I heard a guy just this past week, I was listening to a guy talk about culture, and it's really how do the players behave and go about their business when maybe the authority figure is away. And I think we found out a lot about our team this summer. By far the best summer we've had.
All right, the next part coming up, what we're going to discuss here, just shows that the players realizing what needs to be done to help turn this thing around. We know there's issues. on the sideline as far as game management and play calls, all that stuff. And it's good in some moments, good enough in some moments, not good enough in some moments. It's not consistent enough, but it's also on the players, and the players really taking notice. And Napier was asked, because when we talked to Tyler, he said that one of the things he wanted to see from the players is for them to be more accountable. You guys instituting penalties for them showing up late, having to meet a weight goal every week. Can you take us through the decision to feel like you could do that with this team and how that has helped them this offseason? Napier did go on to respond. The players wanted and were vocal about changes, emphasizing their willingness to give feedback and present solutions. Tyler and his staff, including Jake Sankel and the entire performance team, were credited with creating an environment critical for discipline, accountability, and focus. The most important outcome was that the players embraced and pushed the agenda themselves, showing strong leadership. When you're administering work, that environment is critical in creating discipline and accountability, attention to detail, urgency, certain level of focus, and I think they did that. It's one thing to have a culture where maybe the coaches are pushing an agenda, but it's another thing when you have leadership among the players. To keep this going, let's hear more from Coach Billy Napier.
Is it a sign that your culture has really taken hold, that you got guys wanting the discipline? They're not only coming in and we're doing the extra work, but they're coming to you wanting that extra discipline, wanting the accountability?
I do. I mean, I think experience that's a result of experience is what I would say. I mean, I think we went through a little bit of a youth movement year two in certain parts of our team, and we're reaping the rewards of that to some degree now. And that's not just when we play in the fall. I think it's been, you have a motivated group coming back. They came back with purpose. I think we've added some really good pieces, not only talent, but I think leadership and character. But yeah, I think that the best compliment I can give this team is that all parts of our organization that work with them independent of football just say it's a different group. The academic staff, the equipment staff, the training room, the Gator Made crew, Florida Victorious, the cleaning staff, the people that take care of the building. I'm walking out of the building just the other night, and a guy walks up to me and says, "Hey, Coach, I don't know what's going on around here, but this group, I've never seen that locker room look like it looks right now, and I've never seen guys engage our staff, the food service staff. I mean, so it's healthy. Now it's time to go execute, right? We've got to get football specific. So I'm a firm believer that better people are better football players. And I think we'll prove that this fall.
Once again, kind of like SEC Media Days, Billy Napier going to, we'll prove it this fall. Man, he sounds confident, and I know it's talking season. So it's still talking season. And Billy Napier says that too. Hey, we got to go prove it. But look, I do think last year was a punch in the gut for the players to end the season on that inexcusable 5-game losing streak, and to have that be the second season in a row where the finish to the season was an eye-opener. There's 2 seasons in a row where Florida just couldn't finish, and that something has to change. And I'll give credit to the players here in voicing and addressing that they want the changes. You go back, and this is what was told to me in real time. There was the exit meetings happening after last season with Napier and the players, and there probably wouldn't have been a change in the strength and conditioning program if not for the players speaking up then. I mean, this was right after the season. They felt they needed changes. Big credit to them. That change was brought about by the players. They were not happy with the way they were finishing games. They were not happy with the way they were finishing seasons, and wanted something done about it. It wasn't change for the sake of change, as they seem to have done their part as well, put in the extra work that they were asking of themselves and are being asked by the coaches for changes in the program. And as Napier said, that look, all this is good. But even he said, now is the time to execute. It's time for football. All this talk, it's good. That is the first step. You gotta want the changes. You gotta hold yourself accountable for those changes. But if there are truly differences, then we will see it on the field this fall. I mean, Napier, you can tell. I mean, it sounds like he has the confidence, that the confidence is there, but you still got to do it. And Napier went on to say, quote, "We've been really close. I think we have experience. We've got a core group of players who are coming back. They've tasted it. They've been right there in those fourth quarter games, back-to-back years. Down the stretch, we haven't quite finished the way we'd like to." And I think ultimately that's the motivation behind this, and they know it's just right there and what helps us get over the hump. And they've been seeking out those things. I think they've done that in all parts of life. So we build good character. I think we build good intangibles. I think we have good examples walking the halls here. Now it's time to go play football. So once again, look, we know it's still talking season, but if the Gators are poised for a breakthrough season, this would be a breakthrough season here, of course, after going 11-14 the first couple seasons, this would be a breakthrough season, and it certainly sounds like there's some confidence they can do so in, I think, the accountability department. And, if the Gators are poised for this breakthrough season, this is why Napier and his team believes this year will be different. Let's go through it one more time. The season team, 17 starters returning, 41,000 snaps that they like to point out. And Napier does finally have that experience on the roster. Some are new faces and transferred that have played elsewhere, not necessarily for the Gators as experience, but have played a lot of football. The evolving culture, they believe the culture has evolved significantly. I think going back to something I've pointed to, if you're going to have early troubles like Billy Napier has had so far, be willing to adapt. Now there has been some adaptability there. Certainly, you got to learn from your mistakes. But for this team, for these players, the culture has changed significantly as well. It's just not about following the rules. It's about how the players conduct themselves, even when the coaches aren't around, a level of leadership and accountability like never before under Billy Napier. Now, I think you look at some of the strategic enhancements, some of the coaching changes that have been made, a belief that the changes, strength and conditioning as well, that these are going to result in the significant gains in strength, the conditioning, the speed, all that. It's not just about being faster, stronger, but this belief, building that mental toughness, creating a challenging environment, because we all know how tough this season will be. And then, of course, I think finishing strong. Billy Napier admitted it. Finish has kind of been the mantra of this team right now. Been close in many games, and now with the experience that's there, and then kind of now this offseason training that is now there to close those games out. So building a culture of integrity, discipline, effort, toughness, they're ready to see it pay off, and that goes on to how I want to end what Billy Napier had to say, and that was the realization of where this team is at on and off the field. Billy Napier, he did say, we've got to go execute our formula. We haven't quite done that in all parts of our team. We've got to attack the ball and own the ball. We've got to create more takeaways on defense. I think the turnover margin is critical. I think we need to play the situations better, right? There's situational football that we can improve at, and that we like to work hard and become situation experts. We need to go master our craft and continue to improve the fundamentals and techniques. I do think having veteran players who have been in the system will help in that area. We've got to develop the other parts of our team so that we have competitive depth, so that the scout teams are more qualified. I think we need to be aggressive and try to overwhelm people in how we play with the number of variables that we present, and the aggressive approach in how we call the game and how we play the game. And we need to finish. That's the last part of the formula, is how we finish. So that's what we're going to focus on over the next month. Now, I got kind of slammed last week for, why are you looking back to last year? And, I was looking at the 5 losses and, what contributed to those losses, and, 7 losses, but the 5 to end the season. And, you shouldn't look back. This is a whole different team. Well, I mean, they're kind of doing it here too. We have to finish. That's kind of what I was going back to when I was looking at what I want to see improve for this team. Finishing games was something I brought up, and that's a focus of this team as well. You learn from your mistakes. That's the reason I wanted to see one more time before we turn the page, before we come into fall camp, before we talk about this 2024 team. What can you learn from last year? And that also including the year before, finishing the season. finishing games. Billy Napier just said that's what we're going to focus on the next month, the formula of how we finish. But also, I like what he said. As I said, this was the realization to me of we got to be better in situational football. We got to be more aggressive at times. And that kind of goes to the passing game. We'll get into that later this episode as well. The tempered aggression that he talked about at SEC Media Days with Graham Mertz. But yeah, I do think there needs to be an aggression, a sense of urgency. I think is another way of putting this season. It needs to be there. It absolutely needs to be there. Every level, not just Billy Napier, every coach on the staff, everybody in that building, and certainly with the players as well. Certainly sounds like they believe that responsibility, that accountability is there. So that was Billy Napier's thought, kind of overall program as we head into the 2024 season. But let's move specifically to the offense, starting with Billy Napier here as well. And he was, and some of the questions he was asked, but this one, more particular, what's the next step in Graham Mertz's evolution? And Napier went on to say, I can't share a video of all. I have a limit that Florida puts on us here. So I am reading some quotes from Billy Napier. But for this about Graham Mertz, well, number one, Graham Mertz has had a phenomenal offseason. Mentally, physically, emotionally, the leadership element. I think he started in a different place in January. There's a different level of confidence. Then his place on the team, it's his team. And he proved it on the field last year with not only how he produced, but also the way he competed, the toughness, the grit. I think we're going to have to play better around him. I think I have confidence in that. Well, no, Billy, he said, I think we're going to play better around him. I have confidence in that. I think we have a better group up front. I think we have an experienced tight end group that we didn't have last year. And I think the receiving core, there's a ton of competition in that room. And I think we'll end up in a good place. So better play around him, better play around the quarterback. And look, as Billy Napier said, you start kind of further along. Graham Mertz was going to be the quarterback last year. We all knew that. But there was an element of growth here. There's no question he's the quarterback here. He starts with a leg up now. He doesn't have to start from zero. He's starting this fall pretty much at full tilt. I mean, he knows what's going on. There's no guessing. There's no learning of the playbook. There's no building that rapport with your receivers. So many receivers come back as well. You've played with Chimere Dike. Really, the only guy you really have to fit in now is Elijah Badger. But there's a lot of experience. Your best weapon comes back as well. An offensive line that returns returning pieces as well, but you hit the transfer portal there. So certainly, got to play better around you. But it's starting at a much further point than they were last year with Graham Mertz and everything around him. So better play around him. That's certainly going to go. And as Billy Napier finishes that thought up, better play around him. Everything he's done back all the way to January will provide that next step. So let's continue that play better around him thought. And now let's hear from offensive coordinator and tight end coach, Russ Callaway.
You got some air raid elements, though, and maybe bring a different perspective a little bit. Do you feel like that maybe you do bring a little something?
Yeah, I don't bring anything more than the next guy, to be honest with you. There are things that I believe in, along with Coach Napier. We share a lot of the same beliefs, which is why I'm here. But there are things that, Coach Sale's good at, that I'm good at, that Coach Napier's good at. And I think overall it's a team effort, and I'm just excited to be a part of this journey.
You talked about wearing a slightly different hat and how you're working through that with Coach Napier. You said, I think, in early March. What have you come up with since then? Like, you guys are working through it.
Yeah, so again, Coach Napier, it starts at the top with him, and we've, just like you do any year, we go back, we look, okay, hey, here's what we're really good at, here's what we got to improve, here's the guys that we think are the best with the ball in their hands, and we want those guys to touch it as many times as possible, bottom line. And I think from a holistic approach, we've done a much better job as an offensive staff, starting with Coach Napier. Okay, look, here's the people that we trust. Here's the people that we want to make sure are touching it X amount of times a game, and we're going to design plays according to do that. And I think we've done a really good job with that as a staff.
Wilson, how have you evaluated, generating explosive plays, that aspect of the offense? And what have you found, and what do you plan to work on this camp?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, it's, you want to generate as many explosives as possible. And really, that starts with really good players, to be honest with you. And we do have a very solid core coming back. We feel really good about the guys in the room, quarterback room, receiver room, running back room. And it goes back again week to week. What are we seeing that they're doing defensively, and how can we get the guys in the right spot to make them the best chance to succeed. So again, it's really more of a week to week deal. We do have things that we believe in, from a core offensive philosophy that we think will naturally generate explosives. But I do think week to week you'll see different things and different elements, and that's no different than we've done in the past.
Following up on what you said about getting your best guys the ball, Coach Napier has made it very clear that you guys are going to get your money's worth out of Trey Wilson. Do you have a number in your head? What's the right number of touches for him a game?
Yeah, that's a great question. To say there's a number, no. We do a really good job, and we've done it in the spring, of tracking real time how many times Trey's touched it, how many times the running backs touched it, the other receivers, so forth and so on. And I think it's one of those things, it's kind of the flow of the game. If we're rolling and Trey's touched it, 5 times in the first half, then okay, we're doing really good spreading the ball around. Or if it's not going great, then maybe we got to maneuver a couple things here or there. But to say there's a number, no, I don't think so. I just think it kind of depends on the flow of the game, to be honest with you.
But you do go into games with him either at the top of the list or near the top of the list, and we got to get him the ball. Find ways to get him the ball.
Absolutely. Him along with a few others, yes, for sure.
All right. After Callaway gave his answer to the question about distributing touches, Napier was also asked. Coach Callaway talked about, or Napier was asked, quote, Coach Callaway talked about getting the best guys touches. Mark followed up with your comment on how you get your money's worth out of Trey Wilson, but you have other guys. Do you feel like there are more pieces? And that was asked to Billy Napier, and Napier responded, yeah. And I think that's to be determined to some degree, but I'm excited about what I see. We get a chance to be on the grass with the players. We've executed 14 OTAs this summer, so we're around them consistently. I do think we have other weapons, and I think some of those roles are going to be earned in this training camp. But we're always going to be intentional about who we get the ball to, Trey Wilson being at the top of that list for sure. So I'm going to go back to something one more time that I heard all spring long. We're going to wear Trey Wilson out. And that's what I have heard Napier say this offseason. And I think we know the offense should flow through him, but he can't do it alone. And that would take us to the question from Twitter. I'm going to continue the Q&A that I started last episode. Remember, I asked out there on Twitter, as we are in fall camp for Gator Nation out there, my followers on Twitter, to send me your questions for fall camp. And I'm going to continue that. And kind of talking about the weapons on offense, but the offense just in general. We just heard from Russ Callaway. And I'm going to start there. Gator Truth put out there on Twitter. He said, first-time caller, long-time listener, how big of an impact do you think we actually see from Callaway? Kind of popular question, dating back to when he was named offensive coordinator, what it would mean from Florida. I still think it's a little hazy, just how much he'll be involved. And not to take the easy way out here about this answer, but maybe it's going to be hard to measure. Now, of course, every coach would like to have players and experienced players. But if this offense takes off, if it takes off more, where should we or would we say the impact came from? Of course, it's going to come from multiple aspects, but is the step going to be there because of Callaway, or more because you have a returning quarterback in Graham Mertz, returning weapons in Montrell Johnson and Trey Wilson, and improved offensive line? Of course, all those are going to factor in, but the impact of Callaway, can be, with him implementing some of the air raid concepts that may not already bleed it over into the elements that are already there in Napier's offense. So, of course, I think all those aspects will be there. quarterback, weapons, offensive line. But Callaway, and I think the reason it's being brought up of what different can he bring to the offense? What impact will he bring to the offense? As I said, there are already elements of the air raid in Billy Napier's offense. A lot of the same concepts, mesh, short crossers, forward verts. That's already in this offense. To me, you want Russ to be able to identify what they can do better in that realm of the scheme, and what does Graham Mertz feel good doing in that scheme. And I think part of this impact is Russ is more involved with the quarterback, more involved with Graham Mertz, maybe, or definitely more than he was last year in this new role that he's got for this season. And also going back to last year, Callaway had heavy input in the red zone area, some success there. So throughout the week, he'll game plan in that area. This is how it happened. It happens with the other coaches in their parts of the field as well, but go through the game plan. A lot of collaborative effort here. But those coaches, go through the game plan in that area, have the plays that he thinks will be best in that area. Then when the time comes, Napier, turns to Russ for his input of plays. Seems like that expanded now with the title of offensive coordinator, but with Napier still the play caller and Russ having more input. That's the way I think it will work. Publicly, it does sound like they're kind of downplaying Russ's input a bit. In the interview with Russ Callaway at the media session here, he was kind of coy about it. Basically, just putting out there again that, hey, this is a collaborative effort. It's still more about Coach Napier. But there is a lot of truth of the game plan during the week being very collaborative. But I expect Napier to lean on Callaway a bit more. I mean, there can be more, implementation of the short game. And that's not to say, and I know people will probably roll their eyes at that, and more implementation of the short passing game. And that's not to say rely on that more and not take the shots down the field that we want to see more of, but to extend and help the run game. Now, I think we all know Napier has relied on the run game in the past, but we've also seen the speed at wide receiver, the position that has been recruited at the position the last couple of cycles. So using more short game, I think, to supplement the run game and not necessarily replace the long passing game. I think we all know the two tight end sets, they aren't going anywhere. The run game isn't going anywhere. To me, it's just really implementing and finding ways to keep this offense more consistent and finish games. So I'll say, I think Russ's biggest impact will be something that was highlighted in his presser, and that would be to get the ball to the playmakers in space. Playmakers in space. They've recruited for it. It should show more teeth this season. At times, I do think that Napier's offense is bunched up too much, and that goes down the field to wide receivers at times as well. If they're going to lean on Russ more and kind of lean on his air raid principles more, then I think to be more consistent, get the ball out to the playmakers in space. So I think short game, get the ball to the playmakers in space to help the run game. I think the focus will be downfield for sure. Let's extend the conversation more with a question from Andy McIntosh. With an improved offensive line and quality receivers, will Graham be taking multiple shots down the field each game? And look, we know for sure it has been a pure focus of the offense this season. And one reason I say the short game will be to extend the run game and not necessarily continue what we saw last season. But like I also said, it's talent dependent. The offensive line should be better, deeper, and the same for wide receiver group as a whole. But you got to replace Ricky Pearsall, but that certainly can. I think this year, with year 2 of Trey Wilson, DK Badger in the mix as well, I think it has the potential to be a better overall group. And not to mention the other wide receivers coming back as well. Last season, the focus for Mertz was to cut down on the turnovers, and Mertz did that. And it has been admitted from Mertz and Napier that they want to be more aggressive for the downfield opportunities. They know they were there last year. Some of that is, on Mertz for not pulling the trigger, but some of it goes to the reasons that you asked the question as well. He needs better protection. He needs his wide receivers to get more separation. I don't think it was just a Mertz issue just an offensive line issue, just a wide receiver issue. It seemed like whenever it was called, it was a different reason among those of why it didn't work. You know, I love the way Napier has placed that focus this offseason of tempered aggression. It is a focus. Should lead to more. Should lead to more chances. So it's there. The focus last year was cut down on the turnovers. Turnover machine at Wisconsin. Come here. Let's fix that part first. That was the focus of last season. Now the focus is tempered aggression. Let's push the ball down the field. All right, there we go. There was kind of a quick look back at the media session with Napier and Callaway to kick off fall camp. But that's not all. That's not all. Just not pure football happening, still recruiting. So let's go a quick recruiting update since there's a lot of news there, but not as much detail because of some of the storylines in recruiting here. Just getting back from vacation, getting back from a cruise, fall camp starting, but there's a number of recruiting storylines the last couple of days, and we know how that works. We just know how that works. I'm on vacation, summer vacations, commits are going to happen. That's good news. That's good news. But here we go. A couple of the pickups don't really have a whole lot of background, but let's get started. And let's get started with the class of 2025. And what was supposed to be a class of 26 recruit, safety Demetrius Samuel Jr. He flipped from Syracuse to Florida, also reclassified from the class of 2026 to 2025. Now, look, of course, I normally got graphics made for recruits and all that stuff, but I was trying to get an episode out for you guys. So not the normal recruiting segments that we have here, at least if you're watching the YouTube version. But this is big for Florida. Big for Florida right here at the safety position in this class of 2025 after missing out on Hilton Stubbs to Miami. That was a few weeks ago, and then Lagonza Hayward to Tennessee over the weekend. Samuel out of Palm Bay, Florida, was a top 100-ish player in the class of 2026, but has since been re-rated, since he reclassified. So he's re-rated as the 225th overall player on the 24/7 Sports Composite and the 20th ranked safety. On 3 industry rankings have him as the 205th overall player and the 9th ranked athlete. Both services rate him as a 4-star, even with a reclassification. So we'll see. I think this season will probably go a long way in maybe him climbing the rankings. You know, kind of a weird situation with reclassifying, and how much does that kind of penalize you from not having that junior season and only having that senior season. He was committed to Syracuse since March, but he flipped to the home state Gators after really enjoying the Grill in the Ville event this past weekend, where he had originally made his decision to flip privately. He returned to campus on Wednesday when the Gators opened fall camp and then made the flip public. He comes in at 6'2" and 180 pounds. Andrew Ivins of 24/7 Sports offers a versatile defensive back that reclassified and plans to forgo his senior season of high school. He's been utilized in a variety of different roles at the prep level, but ceiling might be highest as a split safety with his range and ball skills. Testing profile is full of green numbers as he has gone 4.65 in the lasers in the 40-yard dash and owns a 4.4 effort in the short shuttle. More notably, is believed to be pushing 6 feet with some additional length in his arms, which in turn could lead to a look on the outside. Should be viewed as a developmental defender with a promising set of tools, likely will need some time to get adjusted to big-time college football, as he's just tracking to enroll at just 17 years old, but showed time and time again on the offseason camp circuit that he's not afraid to compete in coverage. Yeah, kind of correct something I just said there. Played not his senior year, but played freshman, sophomore, junior seasons. Greg Biggins of 24/7 also had some analysis and says, quote, talented two-way player at receiver and corner, and also a dangerous return man, strong 6 foot, 190-pound frame with plenty of length, has the positional versatility to play multiple spots in the secondary, runs well enough to play corner, has the range, physicality, and ball skills to move to safety. Is smooth in his back pedal and has really good ball awareness to go with ball skills. Real fluid athlete, does a nice job of playing the football in the air, attacks the football, has a ball hawk mentality DB coaches really covet. Really nice ceiling and projects as a high major power forward prospect with NFL upside. So in the 2023 season, the three-phase playmaker at Heritage got snaps at wide receiver and cornerback while also doubling as a return man. He was credited with 19 tackles and 5 interceptions on defense per max preps. Also caught 6 passes for 106 yards, 2 touchdowns to go along with a punt return touchdown. So DB coach Will Harris and assistant Bayar Rasul made Samuel feel pretty good about what's going on at Florida. And let's not forget Samuel was cousins with former Gators DB Marcus May, and has shared that May has always been nudging him toward the Gators. So with Samuel now in the fold, of course, eyes turn towards Bryce Fitzgerald and his decision on August 17th. Still hearing, of course, it's a Florida State battle. He's close to Jason Marshall, so hopefully that nudges this toward the Gators. Wouldn't count out the hometown Hurricanes, but they got 5 DBs committed already. And one more thing, it's probably not the last flip from Syracuse for the Gators in the 26 class. So let's stay in the class of 2025, and a surprise of a commitment from defensive lineman Joseph Mabachu. Hope I said that right. Mabachu from Grayson, Georgia. Not even going to pretend to know a whole lot here because there's not much here. 6'6", 285, 290 pounds. Hasn't even played in a football game. Just started playing the game of football earlier this year. Grew up playing soccer first, then switched to basketball. Earned his first offer from Florida this past weekend. On 3, Keith Niebuhr reports, quote, according to sources, the Florida staff loves his upside. After that visit, it has to be Florida at the top, Mabuchu said. I spent a lot of time with defensive line coach Gerald Chapman, edge outside linebackers coach Mike Peterson. They see me as a defensive lineman, 3 technique player, or they could move me to end. That's probably where I see him more is in. To me, kind of at that size, probably a little too light, 6'6", 285, 290. Probably more of an end fit to me. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see when the time comes, as that's what he said. I think they're really genuine people. They wanted the best for me. I was happy that they talked about football, but they also talked about being a better man and wanting what's best for their kids. And that's really something that's really important to me. So he was born in Cameroon, but moved to the U.S. as an infant, made the visit with his father and 2 siblings. He said they enjoyed the visit as much as he did. Mabachu not only plans to attend the Florida-Miami game in the Swamp August 31st, but plans on an in-season official visit with the Gators as well. So not long before recording, Mabachu also announced that he had received that offer from South Carolina. And from what I can gather, more offers should be on the way as well. So that makes 12 commits for Florida's class of 2025. Class now ranks 50th with decisions looming from Fitzgerald, as we previously talked about. Hopefully Ben Hanks Jr., who I thought may pop in the last few days for Florida. But we'll see when that one happens. And wide receiver Deshaun Montgomery on August 25th. So 3 big-time targets coming up for the Gators. 2 in the defensive backfield, 1 at wide receiver. You get those 3, that would currently put Florida at the 19th ranked class on the 24/7 Sports Composite. But of course, likely there'll be more movement between now and the end of August. So right now it would be the 19th ranked class, but of course probably will change a bit, but probably be in that range. If Florida gets all 3 of those guys, then we head into the season. All right, so not done yet, as we actually have to look back at a class of 2024 edition. As on Thursday, JUCO defensive lineman, I hope I'm saying his first name right, Tavoraz Brown, he committed, reclassified, and enrolled at Florida, all as a JUCO player. 6'8" and 290 pounds. He redshirted at Hutchinson last season at the community college. Begins his career as a preferred walk-on at Florida. And Brown can do this because he was a full academic qualifier out of high school in Cocoa. Now he's a redshirt freshman. He visited for the first time this past weekend and really never left. Definitely some under-the-radar top players for the Gators, and something we may see more of with the scholarships, those numbers rising in the next year, but one more that's, already on campus, practicing with the team right now. So a pretty interesting storyline here. Was able to do it because he's got the credits, can transfer, taking that preferred walk-on status, because we know the numbers are tight for Florida, but fits in right now on the field practicing for the Gators for this season already. 2 practices in, and he's out there on the field. Now, the last commitment, and then we'll go back to Wednesday, because we're going to jump ahead to the class of 2026, and that's Devin Jackson. Safety from Orlando, had the Gators at the top for about a year now, and wanted to make his decision before the season. He's been on campus a ton, was at every home game last season. It was also on campus this past weekend, and again Wednesday when he went public with his commitment. Jackson is cousins with current DB commit or current defensive back Jakeem Jackson, and played at the same West Orange high school that safety Jordan Castell played at. I think it's a good sign, of course, that current players are sharing their experience at Florida. And I think that goes a long way, that they get some truth there, and they share how much they like it at Florida, and it goes a long way into getting commits. So as a sophomore this past season for Winter Garden West Orange, Jackson totaled 58 tackles, 2 pass breakups, and a fumble return in 9 games per Max Preps. He's a 3-star on both 24/7 Sports and on 3. The on 3 industry rankings have Jackson as the 327th overall player and 28th safety, while the 24/7 Sports composite ranks him a bit higher at 387 overall and the 33rd safety. He is a 3rd commitment for the class of 2026. So there we go. 3 commitments in that class. Not shying away from getting commits in that class. And I think if you look at that class a bit, a lot of it is, they have time to change their mind if it doesn't work out with Billy Napier or whatever. But good to be able to already have 2 high-profile commits in that class, and now adding a 3rd to the class. So 3 already for the class of 2026. And then all the other storylines, like I said, had to go back and get a JUCO commit for the class of 2024 who's already practicing, a reclassification from 26 to 25, and there we go. All these recruiting storylines here in just the last couple of days. Oh, as I was enjoying a vacation, last one of the summer, of course, as we turn the page of football season, and that's about all I can really catch up on today. So I stepped in the door, got everything ready, got some notes ready for the podcast. Had to bring you guys, had to put something together as quick as I could here. But next time, of course, I'll include what executive head coach, co-defensive coordinator, inside linebackers, all those titles there from Ron Roberts. We'll get into what he had to say and some players as well. So we'll heard from a few players already in the media session, so catch up with them as well. Justice Boone, Trey Wilson, I believe Jason Marshall, Jake Slaughter as well. So we'll see. We'll see what they had to say and see if we can incorporate it right here in an episode of Gators Breakdown, and also more Q&A from you guys out there as well. So that'll do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown.